going to talk about Legends of Tomorrow, Even Money and Him. And James is going to talk about the history of the world, I guess.
High price. Well, not really high price. Pauline would have got this for me very much secondhand.
Yes.
But audiovisual effects, I'm told by Pauline, that it actually lights up from inside, unlike our Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And
plug it in.
Yeah, but I lost the cord. I'm going to find
okay.
it, I think. I found one
You'll find it.
when I was rearranging my books and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
and that would have been it.
I think that was probably
It's
it.
okay.
I couldn't understand what it was for. Anyway, it was probably in the same box as it. So, anyway, audio-visual effects. Is it okay if I put it down in front of you here?
You sure can.
There, sure can't. Okay.
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
Put it there.
Okay, there we go.
Doesn't matter to me. So, I'm going to talk about this one first. This is the 5th season of this, and boy, did I ever not expect this would ever get top of the stack. It's honestly, I think I've reviewed it before, this show, telling people it's like well, in its same, I'll get into that. Telling people that it's like maybe a Christian after school group or something, or maybe a Christian summer camp group decided to get together and said, well, we really have fun working together, so let's do a series.
Man, that's almost worse than a bunch of drama undergraduates doing that. Well, it's probably way worse. But
So yeah, the acting is not good, and the stories aren't that great, but they're better than one would expect, given the quality of the acting. It's I don't know. They get together in this one. The DC Legends of Tomorrow get together with the Supergirl and Flash and stuff. The TV series people that are really bad. They were
Legends
probably
of yesterday.
Yeah, they were probably a part of the same Christian summer camp ensemble.
That's weird.
And
How did they get DC letting them do that? Anyway, well.
But anyway, it's I actually was sitting there enjoying this because at least they have some comedy about it. You know, it's
like so many Batman, comic book aficionados could not stand the Batman TV series, which lasted all of 1.5 seasons or something like that. I'm going, just relax. I mean, it's not as though it's high literature to begin with. At least they had some
comedy about it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I mean, if you're going to do something ridiculous, and if you're a bunch of bad actors, it's actually funny when you make fun of yourself and when you make fun of the work that you're doing and the whatever. It makes it more watchable.
It's like the players in Midnight Summer's Dream. They've got these guys. Do you know that play where the guy gets ass's head on his head?
Mm-hmm.
That's there. So it's a bunch of just. I think they're kind of like craftsmen. Mm-hmm. They get together. They're going to put on a play. Mm-hmm. And then you've got the Duke of wherever, I've forgotten where it is. Watch, they're making jokes about the play. But, I think eventually it's the Duke that says, let's respect him. Because they're trying. That sort of stuff.
So, yeah, I was actually enjoying watching this a lot more than these other ones. And that's funny because Even Money, I mean, this has some quality actors. Kim Basinger, James and I were talking about it. She's not really an actor, but she is lovely. And I honestly think she'd be a nice person in real life.
It could be. Sometimes you just never can tell.
Danny DeVito, Kelsey Grammer, Forrest Whitaker, Tim Roth. A lot of people were in this.
Well, apparently Kelsey Grammer is pretty nasty kind of guy. And I suspect he's a Trump supporter, too. He was the guy who was in...
I don't really care about people's politics. If
well, when it gets to
and
that point, it's like I can't stand Vanessa Redgrave. She's Trotskyist, or as we say in English, Trotskyite. But I think I'm told in Russian it's Trotskyist. But sorry, I interrupted.
No, it's fine. But yeah, maybe somebody who's into gambling would like to watch all the gambling scenes and stuff like that. But
I tell you,
or maybe
if I were a
somebody who's
gambler, that's the
into
last thing
magicians.
I'm going to watch. It's like watching someone scarfing a bunch of cookies for me. I mean, I'd get the munchies, and
Yeah.
I think they'd kind of get the shakes, wanting to gamble.
But yeah, when she was saying that her book was about a magician, I was thinking, or when she was blaming her money disappearing on lending it to somebody who was really quality, a talented artist who happened to be a musician, I was thinking,
Lending money to an artist?
that's not what happened.
Oh,
So
okay, yeah.
anyway,
Don't lend money to
Yeah.
anyone, really.
so it's funny because we were talking about the magician thing, and that happens into here. This guy has telekinesis, and it's not a movie. I thought it'd just be one show, but it's 140 minutes long, so it's a bit long. Especially considering it's not good. It's so it's divided into 3 shows, and I guess it was made somewhere in Britain by BBC. It says BBC. So honestly, I expected better, but it was boring, really boring. And one thing I found interesting was their narration, because given who the narrator is, you're thinking, okay, well, what happened, right? If this is the person telling the story, then what ends up happening? But nothing interesting, sorry. Nothing interesting. So bottom of the stack, sadly.
Heel. I like the way Southerners say it.
Oh,
Heel. Well, they get different sorts of things.
all right.
I kind of like Discovery. What the
Well, you're a big fan of the superhero stuff, so.
doesn't look very superheroish.
Well,
Heroic. Super heroic. I mean, I don't see any costumes there.
yeah, it's sort of like Doctor Who /
Well, remember that one Superboy where they had him like in lumberjack outfits eventually? Lumberjack things?
Man.
Because
Well,
he was putting on pounds.
Speaking of
But
that,
they didn't have him in.
the
in
Flash has managed to
uniform
stay thin, thank goodness,
Okay.
because he's got it.
Well,
But
yeah. How?
Supergirl in this, she's put on a little bit of weight.
Okay. Well, she might, like one of
She
the
still
things I
looks
found
lovely.
was some of the music videos that when I was rearranging my books, music videos that I'd collected over the years, and some of them I like collecting. I haven't seen many of them, but collecting musicals from the 50s and the 60s
Oh,
and
yes,
stuff
that's
like
great.
that. Because they actually knew how to write tunes. I mean, there's a lot of cliches and so on and so forth, but there's a lot of technique involved as well. So I'm interested in that aspect, but I pulled out Beach Blanket Bingo. I think from 1965.
Yeah, that's
It
really
wasn't
bad.
even
I
50s.
watched that.
It's bad, but
Yeah.
one of the things is they've got there's so many bikinis in there. It's amazing that it's just bikini after bikini, especially bikini bottoms,
Well,
and they're all shaking their hips and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the amazing, this is like the mid 60s. Like nowadays, those women would be considered fat.
Yeah.
I mean, not just plump, but fat. And it's probably the way women should be. So it's maybe not quite as fat. Remember when we were watching Marilyn Monroe and Jane Russell going at it, shaking their hips? And they actually had hips on them,
Yeah.
I don't remember what movie that was or whatever. Yeah.
Anyway.
That was a shockaroo, seeing Annette Funicello with a figure on her instead of looking like some overly starved clothes horse or something like that.
Okay, so you're going to talk about the globe somehow. You
Yeah,
brought it
I'm going to
out,
mention a
so
few things. So
I'm going to let you do that. I'll let you know how much time you have here. Oh, you still have 20 minutes, so have at her.
So I was mentioning the work of someone called Dallas Abbott. Maybe I didn't mention it by name. And so this is not a I want to dissociate myself from her, and maybe not so much from her work, because I might be saying stuff that she'd disagree with. But we've got to. So I don't have anything to do with her. She's not. I'm not funded by anyone, much less anyone who might fund her. I think it's Colombia. No, I think she might have moved from Colombia or stuff like that. I think she's done some excellent research on finding impact sites on various parts of the globe underwater now. And she discovered these, well, not so much 20 years ago, but she started getting this stuff published, as far as I know, around 20 years, maybe a little bit more, 25 years ago. So not all the sites interest me as much as maybe 4 that I'm going to show you, mention and show you. So the one that she seems to really like, for some reason or another, might have been her first description, I'm not sure. Probably not. It's possible. I think it's the Gulf, I don't know how to pronounce it, Carpentaria or something like that. So you can see how it looks as though something took a bite out of Australia. There. That's a Gulf there. It's funny how things on the earth have these bites taken out of them, you know, like Persian Gulf, bitten in there. There's the bite, spelled differently, of Biafra or Biafra. And you can see a Gulf of Mexico kind of takes a bite out of North America, Hudson Bay, a bite out of Canada up there. You'll find these things, you know, like continents have certain, you see how Africa is shaped like a gun or a holster? Same thing with South America. Kind of weird, eh? And Australia just doesn't have, you know, it's like a derringer or something like that. It's definitely not a bump one. So it's fascinating. They're on the southern hemisphere. Northern hemisphere is not, well, the main part of Africa is actually not. Anyway, it's, you know, except for here, North America's got a bit of a shape like that with Alaska and stuff like that. That's not what we're here to talk about. We're talking about Australia. So she found an impact site, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm getting it wrong, I encourage you to check this up on the internet. You can actually, her site, I think, is, you know, it wouldn't be like checking out a Donald Trump site or something like that. If you're a big Donald Trump fan, you're not terribly interested in the truth anyway. I'm terribly sorry to say. About as interested as Donald Trump is, you know, like folks out there, understand Donald Trump is a business guy. He's used to lying to people. I mean, that's what business people do when they're advertising. He does advertisements. He lies. He lies by profession. He does get some things right. He believes in the efficacy, for example, of vitamin D, keeping one healthy. Apparently that's how he recovered from his, as much as anything, recovered from his case of, a well-deserved case of COVID way back when, back in the day. So if you get COVID, yeah, I always liked the guy who's on CBC. This was back in 2020. Golly gee, I really am sick. I know it ain't COVID, 'cause that doesn't exist. Appalling. And then, yeah. Anyway, so that's one thing. And the trouble is the reason why it doesn't interest me overly, aside from the fact it's one of these kind of pockmarks she's found at the bottom of the ocean, various oceans, various seas, is it's not really near any spots that would record it, you know. She's recorded it now, but that's very much post facto. You know, if you're up here, you know, within the last 4,000 years or 3,500 years, you expect people in China to have recorded the impacts here. Here, especially, here a little bit later, Bay of Bengal, here the Indus civilization and what came afterwards. So in the Arabian Sea, as we call it. Some sort of impact up here, yeah, wow, that would, or in the Mediterranean, that would affect Egypt. That would get recorded. Some sort of impact on the Persian Gulf, that would be recorded in Iraq. Guess what? Wow, that's amazing, because she records an impact on the Persian Gulf. Now, I haven't been able to track down when she dates that to, and there would be some problems. They do find, I've mentioned it before, at least one layer. They understand the skeptics with Leonard Woolley's report of the a flood layer in Ur of Chaldees, as it's called in the Bible. I think it's called that in the Bible. It's supposed to, it's a bit of a misnomer, because it's an anachronism, really, because the Chaldees or Chazdim, I think that's what it is actually in the Bible. Did you know that? Chazdim or something like that. I suspect it's on the authority of the Septuagint that we would go with L, but the Mesopotamians, the Akkadians, would mix up S's, SH's, and L's. Why they do that, I don't know, but the ancient Egyptians mixed up R's and L's. Orientals tend to have a problem with R's and L's and stuff like that. In Chinese, it's hard to find anything that we transcribe with an R. I think the word for four is kind of like air or something like that. But usually it's an L. In Japanese, it's hard to find anything with an L in it. It tends to be all R's. Hironaka, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I'm predicting that the radiocarbon readings they'll get on shells that were moved up, I presume they'll find shells, moved up on land here, will test out to somewhere around 2350 BC. The layers would not correspond with that, because the archaeology for Iraq is stunningly out of whack. It's off by, with real time, 900 years. And with the dating system they've got, it would be like off by 750 years or so. Close to 1,000 years they're off. But if they get honest radiocarbon readings calibrated, it'd be roughly 2350 BC, and uncalibrated 1850 BC, which is when I date the Exodus here in Egypt. Which brings up Madagascar. See, another impact site that she's found. Now understand, there are skeptics out there saying, oh, it's not an impact site at all. You know, we do find folks who are like that. You're really cynics, not skeptics. We do find impact sites on the Earth, the continental surface. We should expect, in some of the more recent deposits on the ocean surfaces, the bottom of the ocean, find comparable impact sites. You know, like firing a meteorite into here wouldn't be the same thing as like firing a gun into, I don't recommend this either. I'm told you can do that into a toilet or stuff like that. I don't recommend that. I don't know if that's a old guy's tale or something like that. I don't want to use the term old wives' tale. I don't like that. Anyway, she found one at, I think it's 61 degrees east. So it was roughly 60, and I think it's 30 degrees south. So about a little bit to the east of this X or cross marks the spot. And it raised, we'll go with, I keep forgetting whether it's meters or feet, 100 meters high or 100 feet high. We'll say 100 feet high tidal waves. I think she would have recorded it as in meters. On Madagascar here. Now, it looks as though it's fairly mountainous on that side, so the ramping up effect that you get with tidal waves would have been kind of like amplified. Now, you know, the funny thing is, the tidal waves that were raised in, I don't know where Krakatoa is. It's somewhere in here. sometime in the latter half of the 19th century, so roughly 150, a little bit more years ago. There were ships at anchor, and they just kind of felt a bump. But the tidal wave, when it went up onto I think it was an island there, Krakatoa or whatever, they could see this horrible devastation happening. The ships that were at anchor, a somewhat similar thing, I think, happened with. I better not say that. I'm just guessing about something else. But at any rate, well, I think there might have been a tidal wave at Pompeii when that thing blew up, but I'm not sure. I'm not going to say. Anyway, you'd have this great big long wave spreading out in all directions, 360 degrees, and I am telling you, like it wouldn't be that bad except when it started ramping up on land. And one of the things they find in Indus Valley here, they find flood layers, plural. And again, they'd be saying, oh, this ain't anything like Noah's flood or anything to do with the Bible. I understand. I'm an agnostic, not an atheist, but I am an agnostic. And I only take stories that are where you find actual stuff in the ground, evidence of it, when it comes to flooding. And I only take stories about what happened as if they can be backed up by stories and other traditions and things like that. So, yeah, they do find, I think, gathered multiple layers here laid down by water. And I think most people would have been assuming, oh, it got laid down from floods coming down from upslope. Well, I'm telling you, in many cases, the big layers that they'd find would be stuff that was just brought up from the Arabian Sea there. So, so my suspicion is what hit the Persian Gulf is a piece of something larger that broke up in the Earth's gravitational field, and one piece hit down here. One piece hit up here. I'm not sure if you'd get that kind of scatter. I presume it would hit at the same latitude, but there you go. I suspect that hit at the same time. A little bit later, I forget where this Gulf of Carpentaria thing, when they date that. Again, the dating doesn't matter terribly much to me. I think it's much more recent than what I speculatively date this to, and where she understands she dates this to 2350 BC, but that's with radiocarbon dating. The radiocarbon dating calibration makes it off by 500 years. It should be something like that. I'd like to see the raw carbon dating readings for this. I suspect it's somewhere around 1850 BC. That's when I date a variety of different things. So I'll just show you the spread of the stories. So we'll find in the Greek tradition, they're recording a comet hit Egypt. And this was preserved. Velikovsky actually tracked this one down. He did a good job tracking stuff down. He didn't do a good job explaining the astronomical the thing that caused this sort of stuff. But Abraham Rockenbach, preserving a tradition that we no longer have. Although Pliny does record this, I think it's Pliny, and Velikovsky tracked that one down too. Record this comet Typhon. That was supposed to have hit Egypt. So the Greeks weren't claiming, they've got their own like flood myths and stuff like that, more than one. And like who knows which one would be correspond, if at all, with the biblical flood myth, or the flood myth from Iraq and Mesopotamia. But so we've of course got the biblical record of the Exodus. It was around 1850. We've got something comparable. Now understand, the Exodus, Abraham Rockenbach says this comet occurred in the sign of Capricorn. When we check Allen's star names, we'll find out that the scapegoat that was sent out in the wilderness by the Jews, according to their record, according to what we call the Old Testament, in the Christian tradition, we should really call it Hebrew Scripture. And that's how I prefer to call it. I'll always make a mistake, but that's the way it is. I'm not going to require anyone else does that. I'm not politically correct that way. But at any rate, they sent out a scapegoat. Azazel, the strong god, is the way I think it's interpreted. And strength of God, might of God, something like that. And Alan Starr names, which was written before published well before Velikovsky was doing his work, maybe 50 years before. He says that was associated with Capricorn. Huh? Capricorn? Capricorn. Then we've got, we'll pass over Iraq. We've got Makara. The end of the First World Age. There's a disaster, something like a disaster recorded. And of course the theory about the yugas, these world ages, in India is that you've got these 4 world ages. We live in the most recent, not the last, because there's supposed to be a new one coming up. But it's supposed to be separated by disaster, or a suite of disasters. Suite's probably not a good term, because that suggests a sequence, but just a constellation, shall we say, of disasters. 1, 2, 3 disasters. And the disaster at the end of the First World Age is they don't understand it. I was reading a English translation of it. We can't understand why there's so much celestial imagery. And there's one image that just stands out, Makara. I'm told Makara, I read another source that kind of disagreed with, but I believe it's Alan Starr names says that's Capricorn. Capricorn? Capricorn? Capricorn. What's happening? Let's look at Iraq. This is more like it's maybe got what people interpret as legendary aspects, but it's kind of got 4 of the 10 plagues, as I recall, recorded, and then it's followed by a flood. Now, it's not their classical flood, because, the one that's recorded in the Epic of Gilgamesh, because this is the fall of the Ur-3 dynasty, the 3rd dynasty of Ur. So they've already got something like recorded history, including 2 dynasties of Ur before then, a dynasty or 2 of Kish, so on and so forth. Okay? You comprehended that? The Akkadian dynasty. The Akkadian dynasty, which is the first bicontinental empire, extended into Egypt. That's what they said. They said the 4th king, I believe it is, of the Akkadian dynasty said he conquered Magan, which is the delta. We know from the later Assyrian annals, it's the delta area of Egypt. Oh, that can't be. So what they say is, back then, early, it's Oman. Magan is Oman. And my reaction to that is, oh man, oh man, oh man, you cannot do that. They did do the same thing with Melucha. What did they say? Yeah, they say Melucha, we know from the later inscriptions, if I'm not mistaken, I might be getting glitchy, is the area of the Sudan. But they say, that's in India. I'll tell you what India is in the